November 23rd, 2024. We're studying Bhagavad Gita as it is, Chapter 2, entitled Contents of the Gita Summarized, Text 27. Text 27. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Chapter 2, text 27. We can start with the Sanskrit words responsively. Jatasya,
Jatasya,
he,
Dhruvo,
Meteor, Dhruvam, Janma, Mitasya, Cha, Tasmad, Apariharye, Arte, Na, Tvam, Shochitum, Arhasi. We can do now one line at a time responsively. Jatasya hi Dhruvo Meteor, Dhruvam Janma Mitasya Cha, Tasmada Pariharyerte, Natvam Shochitum Arhasi. Jatasya hi Dhruvo Meteor, Dhruvam Janma Mitasya Cha, Tasmada Pariharyerte, Natvam Shochitum Arhasi. Jatasya hi Dhruvo Meteor, Dhruvam Richam Mitasya Cha, Tasmada Pariharyerte, Natvam Shochitum Arhasi. Would you like to lead the chanting of the verse, Rosa?
No, thank you.
Okay. Wait. Someone online like to lead the chanting of the verse.
I didn't hear which verse it was or book.
Okay. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 27. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 27.
Jatasya hi Dhruvo Mrityur,
Tasya hi Dhruvo Meteor,
Dhruvam Janma Mritasya Cha,
Dhruvam Janma Mitasya Cha,
Tasmada Pariharyerte,
Tasmada Pariharyerte,
Natvam Shochitum Arhasi.
Natvam Shochitum Arhasi. Okay. Jatasya. Jatasya. One who has taken birth. One who has taken birth. He. Certainly. Dhruva. A fact. Michu. Death. Dhruvam. It is also a fact. Janma. Birth. Mitasya. Of the dead. Cha. Also. Tasmat. Therefore. Apariharye. For that which is unavoidable. Arte. In the matter of. Na. Do not. Tvam. You. Shochitum. To lament. Arhasi. Deserve. Translation. For one who has taken birth, death is certain, and for one who is dead, birth is certain. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. One has to take birth according to one's activities of life. And after finishing one term of activities, one has to die to take birth for the next. In this way, the cycle of birth and death is revolving, one after the other, without liberation. This cycle of birth and death does not, however, support unnecessary murder, slaughter, and war. But at the same time, violence and war are inevitable factors in human society for keeping law and order. The Battle of Kurukshetra, being the will of the Supreme, was an inevitable event, and to fight for the right cause is the duty of a Kshatriya. Why should he be afraid of or aggrieved at the death of his relatives, since he was discharging his proper duty? He did not deserve to break the law, thereby becoming subjected to the reactions of sinful acts of which he was so afraid. By avoiding the discharge of his proper duty, he would not be able to stop the death of his relatives, and he would be degraded due to his selection of the wrong path of action. So now we'll recite some mantras. Prabhupada refers to them as the Mangala Charana mantras. They're found on page 1 of Bhagavad Gita, right there at the start of the introduction. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanditamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorange Radhe Vrindavaneshvare Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpata Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Bhagavad Gita Chapter 2 Text 27 Jatasya hi dhruvo mitur dhruvam janma mitasya cha tasmad pariharyete natvam shoti tumarhasi. For one who has taken his birth, death is certain, and for one who is dead, birth is certain. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Okay, so this is part of a series of 20 verses towards the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. And just in two weeks from today, we begin our Bhagavad Gita course. And so we're diving in. So this is series chapter 2, text 11 to 30, series of 20 verses, and Krishna goes in depth into the difference between spirit and matter, between the soul and the body. And actually, this is a series of 3 verses within that 20, where Krishna's really, in a sense, he's playing devil's advocate. He's In modern philosophy, there's the term epiphenomena. The idea is that consciousness is not an irreducible fact. It's just an epiphenomena of some combinations of matter, and then consciousness is produced. Of course, a weakness of that belief system is that, okay, well then you should be able to, or whoever should be able to combine matter and produce a conscious entity. So far, no one's done that. No one's done that. We see trillions upon trillions of examples of life coming from life, right? We're living, and we came from living parents. And the seed produces a tree, and the seed came from a living tree. Life comes from life. Combining dead matter to create life, to create consciousness, never happened. No one ever saw it happen in nature. No one's ever done it in a laboratory. So it requires a lot of blind faith to believe that. So Krishna is saying, even if you accept that epiphenomena theory, still, Arjuna, you have no cause to lament. Still, it makes sense to do your duty, to fulfill your responsibility as a warrior. Okay, so yeah, these verses 26 to 28, Krishna is playing the devil's advocate, even if you do accept that theory. That okay, so sometimes Prabhupada would quote Charles Darwin, like the idea, survival of the fittest, survival of the fittest. So Prabhupada would make the point, okay, but they don't, because, okay, so survival, no one survives. So Prabhupada would make the point, but they don't know what it means to survive. They don't know what it means to be fit. Okay, so everyone's going to die. I'm reminded here of a process called the medicine game. Everyone here has participated in the medicine game. Towards the closure of the medicine game, we give this analogy, again, of course, borrowing from Srila Prabhupada, the cat's jaws. The cat's jaws represent death and its accompanying friends, old age and disease and like that, and birth. And then we can be a kitten in the jaws of the cat. A kitten feels very protected and nurtured, or we could be a rat or a mouse in the jaws of the cat. It's a terrifying experience. So, so we say there towards the closure of that part of the medicine game that, okay, the good news here is no one's going to die in this game. No one's going to die. Okay. At the same time, the actual fact is everyone's going to die. But actually, no one's going to die. Okay. So there's three levels. Okay. So right here in this particular game, but everyone's going to die, right? So that's what this is. So the one who's taken birth is going to be death. But that refers only to the body. For the actual spirit soul, that atomic unit of sentience that inhabits the body, there is no death. So to realize that and to live that, that's what it means to actually be fit and survive. That's what it means to actually be fit and survive. And because the body will not survive. It's going down, maybe today, maybe in 80 years, but the body's going down. Same with the body of the tree or the body of the cat, the dog, the body of the amoeba. And so to be fit and to actually survive means to live our lives in such a way that that we're not forced to take rebirth again. We're not forced to be born in another material body that's subject to all of the embarrassing miseries, including old age, disease, death, and mistakes, and all sorts of bewilderment and foolishness, and etc., 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 etc. So this morning, right before japa period, Rose and I did some reading, and one thing we read was from the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and there Krishna says, Yam yam vapi smran bhavam chajat yante kalevram tam tam eveti konteya sadatad bhava bhavita. Pop quiz, who can say the essential meaning of that text? Pop quiz. Okay. You're looking for it now. Okay. All right. So that's a quintessential, that's like the quintessential reincarnation transmigration verse, not just of Bhagavad Gita, but of all the Vedas. Okay. And where Krishna says, whatever state of being that we're absorbed in, that we have bhava in, whatever state of being we're remembering at the time of death, just like the body's always changing, well, there's one particular change of body that we call death. So whatever state of being we're absorbed in, that state will take us to our next body. Okay. And that's the principle. That's the principle of what's, in popular terms called reincarnation. In more technical terms, transmigration of the soul. In one sense, it's not even something I believe in it, I don't believe in it. We're all experiencing that it happens. Okay? We all experience, we were in a baby body, a toddler body, a teenager body, a young adult body, now middle age, elderly body. The body's always changing, yet there's some constant identity. That's the soul. That's the soul. C.S. Lewis said, you don't have a soul, you have a body. You are a soul. So we are the soul, and the soul's changing bodies, and the soul's changing bodies. And sometimes we'll talk to maybe people who identify as Christian or that sort of thing. Is like, oh, yeah, I don't believe in reincarnation. I just believe you go to heaven or you go to hell. So essentially, you seem to be saying you completely do accept reincarnation. Because what are we saying there? We're saying this body dies, and this bag of bones and skin dies. It'll be burnt to ashes or underground, thrown into the ocean. This body dies. But then we, the actual person, we continue on. And if we were good, we'll enjoy in heaven. And if we were bad, we'll suffer in hell in a heavenly body or a hellish body. So that's the essential principle. It's just there's more nuance in what's given in the Vedas. There's more nuance in what's given in the Vedas in Bhagavad Gita. Just like there could be a pocket dictionary for the first graders, and then there's the unabridged dictionary. Okay? So there's more nuance, more subtlety. Right? So according to our consciousness, then that takes us to our next body. That takes us to our next body. And we experience that every day. If I have a consciousness of gluttony for eating, and then I overeat late at night and do that kind of like, midnight half gallon of ice cream sort of thing. All right. So then I had a particular consciousness, led to a particular activity. Then the next morning, I have a particular bodily experience. Not easy to get up at 4 a.m. feeling so many things, maybe making myself sick. It wasn't an accident. This whole thing, this whole science of the three gunas, the science of the modes of nature, the science of transmigration, the science of understanding spirit from matter, body from soul. To the extent that we really learn this science intellectually, and more importantly, experientially, to the extent that we learn this science, then we don't need to live an accidental life. I don't know. No, we understand. Oh, I understand why I have this tummy ache. Oh, it must have been that half gallon of ice cream at midnight last night. Okay. So it's not like big mystery. Okay. I understand. Yeah, I understand why, like that. So So Prabhupada talks here about violence. In one sense, this Bhagavad Gita is so much about violence and peace. It is described Krishna Bhakti Nishkama and Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ateva Shanta. Only the Bhakta of Krishna can truly be peaceful. Bhukti Mukti Siddhikami Sakliya Shanta. As long as we have any material desires, we won't be peaceful. And to get rid of desires altogether, that's altogether impossible. Our nature is to desire. We direct the desire towards Krishna, then we're peaceful. And we can relate it to this, we're peaceful because we're not committing violence. We're not entangling ourselves in the violent laws of karma, okay? So we're always committing violence. I don't mean to be contradictory here. We'll just look at it. So on the material platform, we're always committing violence. I think scientifically, just here I am speaking, probably my breath is killing some germs in the air, right? When we drive our cars or we walk on the road, we walk on the sidewalk, we drive our car, probably killing so many insects. Okay, so we're always doing violence. And that's why, just like Srila Prabhupada gives, basic regular principles. It's not about, you're not even about bad, good, right, wrong. I mean, we could go there, but it's about understanding the principle of karma, which is basically Newton's law of action and reaction on the subtle platform. So one of the regular principles, if we want to progress in freedom and spiritual consciousness, to minimize the violence we do in our eating, okay? In our eating. Because, okay, so let's say if like, oh, well, I want to taste blood and flesh from my tongue and belly, so then I kill an animal. Okay, so that's violence. So basically it means sometime, maybe tomorrow, maybe later this life, maybe maybe in a future life, I'll be in the body of the cow, the pig, the chicken. And basically, someone's going to destroy and do violence and give pain to my body to enjoy their senses, because that's what I did. It's like that. So that's why, as a general principle, a vegetarian diet is less violent than a meat-eating diet. At the same time, Prabhupada will sometimes say, but we're not vegetarians. We're not vegetarians. We're prasadarians. We're prasadarians. And that's the completely, totally 100%. That's the 100% karma-free, non-violent diet. Because then even the living entities whose bodies are harmed in the process, if before consuming the food, we're preparing it with whatever love and devotion we can muster, and offering it to Krishna through his pure devotee, according to an authorized process, then Krishna accepts. Then the whole process of eating is spiritualized. And even those living entities whose bodies were harmed, they get purified. They make spiritual progress. And we also get purified. And that's just like one area of life. Here we're looking at war, like that. So one area of life. So in this bhakti yoga, it's really a science to avoid the reality described in this verse. We die, then we take birth again. We take birth, we die again. Okay, to avoid the reality, and to not be forced to take birth again. That's in one sense, that's what this is all about. In a more complete sense, by giving ourselves with enthusiasm, utsaha nishtaya darya tat tat karma pravartana. Srila Rupa Goswami is given to us by Srila Prabhupada, describes essential principles, essential way of being that are important to steadily progress. The first one is enthusiasm, which Srila Prabhupada defines as endeavor executed with intelligence. That's enthusiasm. Endeavor executed with intelligence. So we engage with enthusiasm in service to Krishna through his pure devotee. And then naturally we more and more realize, I'm not this body. This body is a vehicle. I'm the spirit soul. I'm that amazing spirit soul. If we look two verses after this one, I'll just read text 29. Text 29 of chapter 2. Astraryavat pashyati kashtirenam astraryavat vedati tataiva chanya astraryavat chainamanya shrinoti shutvapyenam vedana kashtaeva kaschit. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So we actually realize we're the deathless spirit soul. For the soul, there's never birth nor death. This is right now, I'm quoting text 20 of chapter 2. Text 20. Najayate miyate vakadachin nayam budva bhavita vana bhuya ajo nicham shashvato yam parano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. For the soul, there's never birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. There is no birth and death for the soul. That's just a material phenomenon. The soul is primeval, undying, unborn, eternal, everlasting. He's not slain when the body's slain. So that's power, that's security. And to the extent that we misidentify the deathless soul with the body, because in one sense, we don't need to be in anxiety that the body will die. Oh, it's a sure thing. We can know it for certain. The body's going to die, like that. And so, again, I'll just read parts of this series of verses here. That starting with text. I'll start here with text 17. Know that which pervades the entire body is indestructible. No one is able to destroy the imperishable soul. We really realize that, then we're fearless. Otherwise, our life is filled with anxiety. And with such realization, then such a realized soul. What's the activity of a self-realized soul? That's devotional service, and that's the platform of muktirhi vanyata svarupena vivyastati, of eternal liberation, enduring liberation. Just like probably here we are, absorbed in Bhagavad Gita, been absorbed in chanting Bhagavad Gita, kirtan for a few hours. We're feeling liberated, probably from some of the miseries and anxieties we were absorbed in just yesterday. Okay, and so the peace formula to remain in that peacefully dynamic, liberated state. That's to continue in devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada's given us a program to engage in devotional service up to 24 hours per day, according to our inspiration. We discussed one area, like, okay, we eat. Practically every day, all of us eat. Right? So there's a way to spiritualize that process, just like there's a way to spiritualize these morning hours. So Krishna goes on, Attavanti me deha nityashokta sharirina vinasino prameyasya kastid yujasva bharata. Text 18. Only the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is subject to destruction. Therefore fight, O descendant of Bharat. He who thinks that the living entity is the slayer, that he is slain, does not understand. One who is in knowledge knows that the self slays not, nor is slain. So Krishna is talking about the amazing soul. For the soul, there is never birth nor death, nor having once been, does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, unborn, eternal, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? And next Krishna gives an analogy. He gives another analogy. Vasamsi jirnani yatavihaya navani grinati naroparani tatashirirani vihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, similarly, the soul accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. All right, so yeah, so this is like clothes. These are like clothes. Sometimes there's the vehicle analogy, the chariot analogy, the computer analogy. We're not the hardware, we're not the software, we're the operator of the computer. Here, Krishna's giving the clothes. It's like we change clothes, give up these clothes are old, put on new clothes. Similarly, we give up old bodies and we get new bodies. And then, so now Krishna describes what's the qualities. This is self-realization. This is the qualities of the self. The quality of the body is it deteriorates all of that. So nainam chindanti shastrani nainam dati pavaka na chainam kledyatnyapo nashoshayati maruta. Krishna says the soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor can he be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. Achedyo yama dayo yama kledyo shoshedacha nitya sarvagatanor achalo yam sanatana. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can be neither burned nor dried. He is everlasting, all-pervading, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. This is the qualities of us. Okay, qualities of us. So Krishna is imploring us to get realized about this distinction and not identify with dead matter. So one term there is sarva gata, all pervading. You know, this is a question we actually have in the chapter 2 modules of Bhagavad Gita course, Bhagavad Gita Yogic Principles and Transformative Coaching. That yeah, well, actually, according to the modern chemistry and science, life cannot exist in these conditions. I remember this was about 15 years ago, maybe 2007 or so. And I saw an article on the internet, and they found life in some. I found an article. They found life in some volcanic ash under the sea, and the temperatures were like 800 degrees hotter than where life could exist. So then they needed to change their theories. Well, we used to think, but now we know. And then just like the next year, also preparing for the Bhagavad Gita course and related to this verse, Nitya Sarvakatasana Jalo Yam Snatana. Yes, that it's an article about blood falls in the Antarctica, in the Antarctic beneath the ice. There's this place and there's no oxygen, this and that, and life can't exist there. And they found these life forms. Okay, so it's interesting. So in so many ways, more and more modern science, they're coming to the realizations like, oh yeah, that was in Bhagavad Gita like 5,000 years ago. Thank you very much. But okay, it's good. You've come. There's like in so many fields. We're discussing just one here. So Krishna says life is all pervading. It's in fire. Yeah, just like there's life in water, the fish, and there's life on earth. Oh, life can exist in fire. Well, they found life in fire. So Bhagavad Gita is saying that life is in all the elements. Yes. And so then Krishna goes on. So he's describing us, the irreducible quanta of consciousness that inhabits the body. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, immutable, and unchangeable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. If, however, you think that the soul is perpetually born and always dies, still you have no reason to lament, O mighty armed. And now today's verse, for one who has taken his birth, death is certain, And for one who is dead, birth is certain. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in their interim state, and unmanifest again when they are annihilated. So what need is there for lamentation? Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. O descendant of Bharat, he who dwells in the body is eternal and can never be slain. Therefore you need not grieve for any creature. Okay, so this is like, yeah, it's like, oh, to know myself, self-realization. So this is like this. We're the soul. We're the soul, and like some we can think about spiritual life and self-realization, and to the extent that someone, well, intellectually and experientially, this is how much are we getting? We're not the body. We're the spirit soul, okay? And that's a beginning, and that's called sambandha. Oh, I'm the spirit soul in the body. All right, but then what's the activities of the soul and self-realization? That's called bhakti. So it goes both ways. So we can do analysis. Oh yeah, the body changes and the extent that we understand we're the soul, that'll lead us to bhakti. And whatever realization we have or don't have, we engage in bhakti, chant Hare Krishna, begin to offer the food to Krishna, study Bhagavad Gita, we engage in bhakti, and then naturally we get realization that we're spirit soul. So it goes both ways. They nourish each other, both directions. And there's a text in the Bhagavatam, Yadunu Dyasina Yuktas Kamaganti Bandhanam Chinjanti Kavidas Tasya Kona Koryat Nibandhana. That Sutta Goswami says intelligent people free themselves from the reactions of karma by engaging in this chanting process. Shunvatam Shushu Shardhanasya Vasudeva Katavachi Sanmahat Sevya Vipra Sanmahat Sevya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevana Shunvatam Svakada Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Vidyantastoya Bhajati Vidunoti Suritata. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma super soul in the hearts of all living entities, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, personally cleanses the heart from material desire. For the sincere devotee who is cultivating attraction to hearing and chanting, hearing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, hearing Bhagavad Gita, hearing and chanting, and this hearing and chanting is itself virtuous and auspicious. And so Krishna personally cleanses our heart from material desire to the degree that we're developing an attachment to chant Hare Krishna. Because that material desire, that's the driving force that keeps us in this pitiful condition of one body after the next, one material body. We get a material body, and that's simply material body. It's a reciprocation. It's a reflection of my material desire in my consciousness. So it's about change of heart, transforming the quality of our desire from material, based on the illusion that I am the body and I'm the enjoyer, I'm the controller, to spiritual. Spiritual means serving God, serving Krishna with love and devotion. Then we establish our identity in our original spiritual body, which is not subject to this birth, death, old age, disease, mistakes, illusion, limitations, cheating, etc., etc. So this text, chapter 2, text 27 of Bhagavad Gita, Jadasya hi dhruvo mitra dhruvam janma mitasya cha tasmada pariharyate natvam shochitum arhasi. For one who has taken his birth, death is certain. And for one who is dead, birth is certain. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. Okay. I welcome to hear any comments, realizations, questions, at this time. Garuda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, dear Govinda, for this class today. So I was connecting to my own direct experience and where I feel like I'm kind of hung up or stuck in this place where, you spoke to this idea of, the soul cannot be touched, burned, all these different
Yeah. Yeah.
it's and I feel like what's kind of been my life journey or my life experiences was it was really easy for me to connect to, I'm not this body, because I had out of body experiences throughout my life where,
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, it may have been just all in my mind, but it was an experience that it just connected to this idea of that I'm separate from my body, because I perceived that I went to different places other than here in this reality,
Yes.
very tangibly, and then also experiencing very hellish experiences as well, and hellish um, what some would describe as hellish planets, or going to hell if you're Christian perspective.
Yeah.
So what's kind of coming up for me is like, in the past I had to come to, well, I got to come I got to come to some place of accepting that whether I knew why or what I experienced or did in my past life that may have co-created these experiences, I had to come to some terms of like, well, maybe I did have a responsibility in that, even though I wasn't conscious to it. I'm, at this lifetime. And I could see directly in this lifetime, actions that I've taken that have created more hellish experiences. And
Sure.
so in this lifetime, I'm seeing like, okay, I'm conscious to, and I've learned to, and I even took to spiritual life and religious life to avoid co-creating more hellish experiences
Yeah.
for myself.
Yeah.
So I can see, how my life has valued very much so, um, with, really being conscious and aware of how I am co-creating my reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where I feel like I'm hung up is this in this place, and I've noticed over the past few years, I've had some deaths in more close by, directly family related, close friends, and what's been coming up for me is this idea of like, intellectually, or even like, in Sastra, we see how, like what you were speaking to in regards to like, whatever consciousness we're creating in this reality, it creates our next body. And then in the same time coming up, I was raised Christian perspective, whatever, not only we are saved by, the grace of God, but also by our works. Grace, we're not
Yeah.
saved by grace alone. It doesn't mean we can do whatever we want and we're going to go to heaven, as far as a Christian perspective, my
Yeah.
understanding. And then even looking at like this, following this philosophy, you know, uh, really endeavoring, like I feel like my motivation more is to avoid hellish experiences, and what's coming up for me recently with deaths was that I feel like I still don't trust that I'm conscious enough to avoid another hellish experience, that God or Krishna or the material nature won't choose to handle me roughly again, to
Yeah.
where I have another hellish experience. So what's coming up for me is like, uncertainty of what's going to happen when I leave this body, you know, as far as like, will it be a hellish experience or will it be not that? And even though I'm, you know, I can look to my intellectually, you know, and what you know, philosophy says, I'm still hung up in this place of not trusting and not feeling like I don't trust. I feel like I might be unconscious again
Yeah.
and I might create something hellish again. So I feel like I'm kind of like that's my motivation in my life to to avoid hellish experiences.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's not like, you know, I feel like it's not it feels like it feels like someone who is lost and stuck in this like uh this perspective, and I don't know how to break free from it. And I could see how one last thing, I'll wrap it up. I could see how like in my life when I've tried to avoid like thinking about it or feeling the energy, I go into pain management. But now at this point in my life, I can see, I'm conscious to it, and I'm intentionally getting with that energy and expressing the emotions around it. And even energetically, you know, I do
Yeah.
some, you know, releasing of what energy builds up around this like fear and then anger and resentment. um and then yeah, going back to fear of like what's going to happen. So but and that's helping, you know, not you know, holding the beach ball down, like releasing the beach ball. But I feel like and then that energy builds back up for me again. It seems to be like that's where I'm at this place where I'm like, you know, it subsides and then it builds back up and then I release and then it subsides. And I just feel like I'm kind of stuck in this cycle, and I don't know how to like move forward or take that next step to where I feel liberated from that like energy or that, you know, fear.
Mm. Thanks for sharing. I'm feeling your energy. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for your potent, authentic sharing as I experience it. Yeah, so you're experiencing fear, you're experiencing stuck, experiencing fear, experiencing stuck. And a few things come to me as I'm, you know, processing what I received from you, Garuda. Yeah. Oh, okay. One is text 10 of chapter 4. Krishna says, Vita Bhaya, Vita Ragabhaya Kroda Manmana, Manmaya Mam Upashrita, Bhavo Gyanatapasa Puta Magata. Krishna talks about attachment, investments in fear, anger, and just general material attachment. But he specifically talks about bhaya, fear there. So I'll just kind of put that out there. And you can, and Srila Prabhupada has an especially brilliant purport, chapter 4, text 10. Not going to go into it now. And also, what comes to me, so in chapter 7, Krishna describes different type of people who come to him. Chatur vida bhajante mam jana sukriti narjada arto jigyasa artati gyanija bharatarshava. And he says, like, one type of person who comes to him are those who just want to avoid or at least minimize hellish experiences. Like, yeah, they're not coming because they love me or something like that. And so I completely relate to you. We're like, okay, I'm like really suffering here. And like, okay, yeah, when I chant or I associate with the devotees, I read Bhagavad Gita, the suffering is relieved. Okay, I'm going to do it. Okay, it's because you love Radha Krishna. I don't even. I just want to relieve pain. Krishna says others come to me because they want money, essentially. So one thing is there's one group that comes because they want to lessen and reduce the hellish pain. Others come because they want to increase the material happiness, and others come just because they're curious, and others come because they really want knowledge. And importantly here, Krishna says these are all auspicious. There's different levels of purity, because like on the fully transcendental plane, we simply serve Krishna out of love, or full sattvic consciousness. But Krishna's, because for whatever reason someone approaches me, they get purified. They get purified. So it's all auspicious, like not to be denigrated and like that. So we might be approaching God, Krishna, for material reasons, but okay. And then we get purified by any contact. That's what absolute means, param bhavam, param dhamma. We get purified by chanting, by studying Bhagavad Gita. Also, when you said like you're not trusting, I relate to you. I would say as my life goes on, I definitely have increased trust in this process and this philosophy and everything Prabhupada's given, everything Krishna's given. I have increased trust. At the same time, I'm not saying like I have sublime trust in myself. Okay, like let's say if I were to leave my body today or whenever, like sublime, I'm going to be just whatever's happening in all of the. Generally, the process of death of the body is like hellishly painful. Generally, and I'm going to be just like peaceful, chanting Hare Krishna. Like I hope so, but like I don't feel, I'm like far from there. It would be like I need a lot of Krishna's grace and Prabhupada's mercy. So I relate to that lack of trust, and you described a cycle. In the Vedas, it's called Bhoga Tyaga. Kind of these cycles of like enjoy and then detach, enjoy and detach, and it can be on the sensory, it can be on the emotional level, release then build up, release then build up. So this is described in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 also. And so so I personally relate to those experiences, and I have times where I'm going to be austere now, and chant more attentively, and then I feel relatively liberated and relatively free, and then like, whoa, let's enjoy, and then boom, crash. And so pretty quick. So that's the Bhoga Tyaga cycle, and yeah, generally I feel kind of foolish to continue to believe that through willpower I'm going to get out of that cycle that I have tens of thousands of experience. Now I'm just in a cycle. So that's where I liked where you brought in that integration of works and grace, as the saying goes. Work like everything depends on me. Pray like everything depends on God, Krishna. So I see my process is for sure working harder, but mainly kind of not being so egotistical and just like surrendering and realizing my helplessness and weakness and going deeper into Srila Prabhupada, Krishna, please help me to break out of this Bhoga Tyaga material cycle and be more and more steady in my habits that'll support me to serve you with joy. Hare Krishna. Those are a few thoughts that come to me.
Yeah, I appreciate your sharing, and I think the biggest thing that I got from your share was I'm not alone in my experience, where I think maybe I feel that way a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. And okay, I'm glad. I'm glad. I don't know if it's the term misery loves company is appropriate here, but it's a struggle. So Krishna talks about yayidam dharate jagat, the living entities struggle with the material. So everyone's struggling. So my happiness is that, well, at least this, because what I do have complete trust in, if I gave up the Krishna consciousness process, my struggle would be a whole lot more hellish, because
Mm.
the nature of any material consciousness is struggle. And so then this bhakti process, it's a worthwhile struggle that I'm convinced about. Whereas struggle outside of self-realization in bhakti is just a futile, just like a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing. It's a futile struggle, and that just adds dimensions upon dimensions of emptiness and despair.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate just acknowledging that everyone's struggling. Even though, you know, maybe it's not spoken to enough, or uh people don't really want to share honestly enough that their struggles. Um Maybe that's what maybe I think maybe I had, or I feel like I tend to feel alone in that experience where I feel like, what, how is everybody else so joyfully experiencing their experience? So I guess I'm looking at my own maybe judgment or perspective that, you know, I'm the one, I'm the only one, or there's a few of us, or so I feel like I'm appreciating just kind of stepping out of that a little bit um in this conversation. And Damayanti took notes on the Bhagavad Gita verses that you mentioned as well. So I'm look forward to exploring them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gurudeva. Yeah, so one text went 410, and the other one about the types, the other one would be 416, 716, 716, 410. Also, I'm going to give two more verses. So chapter 2, text 14 and 15. Krishna talks about struggle. He talks about materially, there's going to be happiness and distress. On the mental platform and the physical platform, the weather's too cold, it's too hot, it's just right. Financially, relationships. So chapter 2, text 14 and 15. Matras parshas tu konteya shitoshna shukadugada agama paino nichas tams tiksasubharata. Krishna says, the appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course, it's like hot, cold, winter and summer seasons, to tolerate them without being to experience them, not pretend they're not there, to experience them, and to continue with steadiness on my bhakti process. And then Krishna goes on in chapter 2, text 15. Yam hi navyatayante te pusham pusharshabha Samaduka Sukham Dhira Somitatvaya Kalpate. And Krishna says, one who is steady in the misery and the happy, one who's steady in bhakti and through all of that, that's liberation, to be steady in that. One final personal thought I'll share, and I appreciate our personal exchange here, Garuda. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone here knows parts of my history, but I first took some transformational seminars when I was 18 years old, 1979, which was really like four years before I started chanting Hare Krishna, and really just about 1 year before I started reading Prabhupada's books, and there is a connection there. But anyhow, so I was 18 years old, so kind of young, just still adolescent like that, and it was, there was like a 4-day course, and it was a 5-day intensive. And I was the youngest in the course, and like then people mostly middle-aged, more elderly. And what struck me wasn't my it wasn't my process. What made the main impact on me that really guided my life in many ways, I just saw beneath the masks how much hellish pain there is for everyone. And that really made an impression. And that really made an impression about what's really going on here. And actually, I guess I feel glad to say, because that I'm fortunate that my parts of my service have me like facilitating advanced and foundational seminars, and engaging in like services like that. So like I'm kind of seeing the pain beneath the beach ball and beneath the masks, and so it's helpful for my spiritual life. Actually, it's helpful for me to dedicate myself to the actual happiness of the soul, to see what's material reality really like behind the veil.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, to see truth, what individuals are really experiencing, to really see that and experience it firsthand. Um, yeah, it really hits home in regards to, the suffering is really there, um, for everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Any other comments, sharing, realizations, questions? Rosa.
Hare Krishna. So text 18.
218.
Yes.
Okay.
Only the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is subject to destruction. Therefore, fight, O descendant of Rata. So I interpret that as take courage, take heart.
Yeah.
And then I ask, well, what does that look like in the context of what we've been reading? And what comes to my mind, what's real for me and my experience is conversations about life being a simulation. And in my lifetime, I've played a lot of video games. And so what does take courage mean? I mean, there are games where people jump off of buildings and
Yeah.
do all sorts of things, and these characters pass and another one spawns, and then you go again and you go again. Well, what's the quality of the intention? What are the things that people are choosing to do? And our level of intention there and what we choose, based on the knowledge that we seek, the things that we learn, our association.
Yeah.
And if we take courage in these things, I personally feel so much hope, and there's just so much opportunity. And so putting that down and going back to the video game thing. So another thing I've experienced with video games is you get the cheat codes, right? And then you understand how to have all of the material possessions within a game. You have the armor, you have
Yeah.
whatever it is that you need. And I've been in those situations where I'm like, well, what's the point now? I have everything.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it feels unfulfilling. Like
Yeah.
like what do you do now?
It feels empty.
Exactly. And I draw a direct parallel with our lives here, because I know it's similar. And the same thing I've experienced there, service, helping others in the community.
Yes. Yes.
With their experience, with their attainment.
And then you maybe, apparently paradoxically, then you feel so much more fulfillment.
It is very fulfilling. So taking both of those, taking courage and heart in our devotional service and moving forward, not necessarily blindly believing in our ability, but knowing that we're making the next best choice.
With trust.
Yeah.
With trust. I appreciate your realizations, Rosa. Thank you. Well, I'm reminded this was about about a decade ago when Garuda and Damayanti were residing in Gainesville, and and I mean, one program at their home, we entitled it Maya, the Ultimate Virtual Reality. So in those games, and we actually, I think that's one of those that are transcribed in the book, The Power of Bhakti, Maya, the Ultimate Virtual Reality. So those games, and uh, video games, I'm certainly not so familiar with what's happening now. I remember decades ago, I did something called Ms. Pac-Man. Okay, there you go. All right. So, but that's it. So it really is a virtual reality. And the idea we get in the virtual reality, and I mean, because there's the games, but then you can hook yourself up to these whole new reality, the Matrix, that whole thing, and then that becomes the reality, like that. But someone with objective vision can see, no, you're just lying in some vat of stuff, or you're just sitting there in this like dark, shadowy room like that. No, I got this. I got my armor. Whoa! How? But I'm being attacked. No, that's just this whole illusory reality. You bought into it. And that's the whole thing, kind of like I bought into this. I'm this David Wolf character, and I have this victory. And now I'm being smashed, and that's this whole thing. This is and because 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, I was in some different body, maybe human, maybe a different planetary system, maybe a different species, and then I was this other person, and 100 years from now, so. And and maybe a story some of you heard me share, because my first connection with Krishna consciousness. In actually 1980, I started taking prasadam at the Bhakti Center on East Hamilton Avenue in State College, Pennsylvania. I was 19 years old, so shortly after my transformational seminar experiences. And the director and founder of that center was Stamba Das, also known as Stephen McLean, lives in High Springs now. And so for 3 years, my only service was consuming massive amounts of prasadam. And so there was some purification happening, and then, I would get more into the kirtans, a little bit, started reading Prabhupada's books. But I remember one time I was walking with Stamba, and because I was beginning to understand some of the philosophy he was, he was giving. And Prabhupada was giving in the books. I said, well, okay, you're saying like this is all like a game we're playing. I'm this university student. I'm a professor. Now and we're just in these. This is like the term virtual reality wasn't there then, and there's a book by Dr. Richard Thompson called Maya as Virtual Reality. I actually have that book here. So I said it's just a game. So I said, all right, so you're a Hare Krishna. So you're playing another game. So you're playing another game. And then he said, yeah, but the difference is this is the real game. He said, this is the real game. So that stuck with me. Okay. So this serving Krishna, serving God, that's the actual activity of the soul. You can say that's like disconnecting from the virtual reality. Who I am really, oh, I'm this person. And oh, there's not just like these virtual trees and rivers. There's a real tree and there's a real sky. Oh, so Samba said, oh, no, but this, not because like I don't identify myself as a Hare Krishna. Are you a Hare Krishna? I don't identify myself that way. And I got that from my early connections but yeah, I do identify myself as an aspiring practitioner of a science of self-realization, a science of God consciousness called Krishna consciousness. I identify myself as an aspiring follower of Srila Prabhupada, as practicing a process of self-realization called Bhakti Yoga, a process of developing love of God called Krishna consciousness. So this is how I identify myself, but not like a label. So I say, yeah, this is the real game. This is the real game, because when we as the spirit souls, when we disconnect from all, all of the all of the pretentious identities. What's our real identity? Spirit, soul, not the body, servant of Krishna. So he said, no, this is the real game. That's the difference. So yeah, let's play that game. Let's play that game. How absorbed in Krishna consciousness can I be today? And then that's the game that's qualitatively different than any of the other video games. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for your presence and association. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.